Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. I mean the approach. I want to I don't want to press you too hard because I don't expect you to pull the curtain too far back, Nadim. But when you're in a situation like that where you have a molecule that you acknowledge is not first in class, but you think there's an opportunity to create a molecule that's best in class in that space. What are some of the you said we got creative. What are some of the tools or I guess approaches that enable that sort of development and design creativity?
Sure. So I think first you have to set the kind of parameters around what does best in class look like? And so what are some of the features and attributes of the molecule? And then can you get there? And so if you can address the first question, then you have a target to address. And then if you can address the second question that says, can you get there? Then that allows you to kind of enter this space. So for us, if the answer to the second question had been, no, we can't get there, then we wouldn't have pursued the molecule. But, we've got a team that's very strong in the area of biologics, T-cell engagers, including somebody who actually invented Blincyto, which is Amgen's portfolio. And so, we were able to feel very confident about how we can actually potentially address the best-in-class approach. And of course, the story went from lymphoma to now autoimmune disorders. And so, again, it was addressing the why and the how, and then now having multiple paths potentially for patients in the future for that asset.
Very good. Bob, I want to turn to you. You've mentioned AI a couple of times early on here, and I want to dig into that. The general question would be, what technologies and tools do you find the most effective today for improving drug discovery efficiencies? And I'm assuming, that's going to open up a conversation around AI. So I want to dovetail that with a question that we received from William around how AI is being used in target validation. Perhaps that's something that you can address in your response. So I guess at a high level, let's talk about what advanced technologies, Bob, you're finding most useful.
So in terms of the target validation and ID, so one of the things that Amgen has invested in a while back is Decode, which is a large human database in terms of genetics and understanding that. So there's even more investment now within the company, to build that even larger, to move into more supercomputing types of technology, to really dig in there and to really drive towards the therapeutic pathways that could be involved, as well as down into the targets. So really using the artificial intelligence right from the very beginning within the patient data sets is at the forefront of some of the things that we're trying to do. I would say in general, if you look out in the industry and across all therapeutic areas, you get responses to drugs. Some patients respond really, really well, and they're great. And as you know, as a discovery scientist, you think, that's awesome, good for them. That's really great for them. But then you get into a position where patients either stop responding or don't respond at all. And that's really where I think the industry needs to go and will be going to really try to understand those patients. So the lack of effect. And I think that's where, this machine learning, where we get sampling and really understand from our clinical studies how patients are responding or not responding, which then allows for the next generation of therapies to come forward. So I think that's the power for me, and where I think we're going to wind up going in the next 5 to 10 years, where we can really understand the signaling networks within different disease states.
That's an interesting point, and it reminds me. So I just came, like Nadim, I just came back a week ago from the JP Morgan conference, and I did several interviews out there, and there was more than once I heard from biotech execs who said, the early sort of low-hanging fruit application for some of these advanced computational tools was around molecular discovery, and they more than a few folks said we don't necessarily need to apply tools to discover more molecules. We need to figure out where we're going to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning further down the road, which I think speaks generally to what you just said, Bob. So first, I'm just curious, would you both agree or disagree with that statement? We don't necessarily need to discover more molecules right now. We need to apply these technologies to improve targets and molecular design.
So can't we have both? I mean, I think it's really important to have both, right? To have drug-like properties. I mean, if you look at the molecules that we have that go into people, there are side effects on small molecule side that we can work towards better efficiency for delivery. Those are things that I think that we can build in with this type of artificial intelligence. And then you also have on the biologic side, they're not neutral within the body. They have interactions, and typical biologic gets absorbed into is cleared very differently than a small molecule, and trying to understand how that interacts and really trying to build out drug-like properties, really, really important to do that. So I think that you're going to have both. I totally agree with going forward and getting into the disease states in more depth and really applying that. Absolutely a place we want to go. But I do think we want to keep the pedal down on terms of these modalities and really getting the best drugs to patients.
Nadim, anything to add there on the AI topic?
Sure. I think in addition to kind of discovery and development, I think commercialization is another ripe area for addressing and applying artificial intelligence. And so I can certainly see a future where we continue to meet our customers where they want to be met. And so whether that's in the digital environment, a virtual world, I mean, we learned a lot through COVID, of course, and sometimes, an in-person interaction isn't always required. And sometimes people, who are working, are busy, but accessing information need to receive information in a very different way. And so I can certainly see, as well as discovery and development, how artificial intelligence could play a role in maximizing efficiencies throughout the commercialization process as well.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to a couple of audience questions real quick before we get to our first polling questions for the audience. Let's start with this question from Sheila. She's asking a very specific question about a specific AI application. When considering creative approaches, are you using Synapse, PatSnap AI? I mean, whether or not you can answer that, feel free to if you'd like. But I guess it begs the bigger question: when you decide that you want to go down the computational biology path and perhaps adopt an AI application or applications, are you picking applications off the shelf, developing them internally? Like, what does the actual AI application look like? Bob, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it starts with the appetite of the company, right? In terms of like how much you want to get involved with it. Amgen has a pretty big appetite and has dedicated in the past to machine learning and really trying to figure out on the chemistry as well as the biologic side of things to build the best drugs, and is now investing even more in terms of bringing that, what we just talked about, really understanding the world of patients and disease states into focus as well. So with that, it really is looking internally and externally and really trying to bring in the best product. And just as in the world of technology, this is ever evolving. I mean, it is something that is new literally on a weekly, monthly basis. You're seeing things and adapting. So I think making sure that the company is flexible enough to learn and grow in the space is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Nadim, anything to add there?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, when using some of these external models, you have to be very careful about information, intellectual property, all the things that go in there, because obviously they become available to the whole world. So sometimes a different approach is needed for kind of what you're developing internally as, maybe a machine language learning model versus, taking something from the outside. So I think as an industry, we're still working through that currently.